But live from session. Hold on. Ooh, what a day, man. We're live now. We'll let some people kind of roll in before we get into football and basketball chat and questions. If you're already in, feel free to start dropping questions in. We'll get to everybody. Cole Pinkston's going to join us in a little bit. We'll talk football. We'll talk Auburn, Kentucky. We'll talk about basketball. Auburn and Furman exhibition game Sunday. I'm going to be there. I'm going to drive up to Greenville and go to that. So we'll talk about that as well. As basketball season's basically here. We'll get all of that going. And Zach in the back might even join us, which that'll be good. By the way, should have the mics thing fixed. This took weeks, but finally, with a little help from a colleague of mine, hopefully we've got that figured out where the mic situation is better now. It should sound great. All right, we'll let everybody roll in here another minute or two, and then we'll get to chatting about some Auburn, Kentucky happenings. We're here in session. They open at 4, and people already roll in. You already got multiple booths filled, and people at the bar. People taking off work at 4, coming down here and have a happy hour drink 4 to 7. This place will be filling up. It's hot, man. It does not feel like late October, by the way. At all. Well, what do you guys think? I want questions. I want thoughts. I want score predictions in the chat. And Zach can bring them to the front. We can talk about them as we go. But what do you guys think about Auburn, Kentucky? I want to hear what you're thinking. I want to hear what you're thinking. I picked Auburn. Cole and I both picked Auburn, almost the exact same score. It's like Auburn hadn't been playing well. Yeah, I mean, Auburn's been playing okay. And they're 0-4, but Kentucky hasn't been playing any better. I mean, there's no reason Auburn can't win. They could lose, they could win. It could really go either way. But despite being 0-4, they absolutely could go win that game. All right, we'll start getting to some questions. Like I said, put your questions, put your chats. We're live here at Session Cocktail, downtown Auburn, right here on Magnolia Avenue. Happy hour 4 to 7. Come on in. If you're in the area, come on in. Happy hour drink. Come say hey. Otherwise, come in on Saturdays, come in on Sundays, 12 to 5, and enjoy a drink before, after dinner, all that good stuff. Session Cocktail. By the way, no reservation needed. You can come in, get on the list. Sometimes they're on super busy nights you might have to wait, but other than that, man, you should be able to get in most of the time. So come check them out. Let's jump into this stuff. Bill Brasky, Dean. How motivated are the players really? Do they still have something to play for? Yeah, this is a tough one, man, and nobody knows but them. Nobody knows but them. I was actually talking to somebody this morning that would know, and I was like, I said, you're kind of entering that point in the season where you're 0-4. Not a lot of good things have happened to you. I said, you're kind of entering that point of the season where, you need something good to go your way, where players are going to start hitting, and it's just human nature. They're going to start to hit a point of feeling like they can't get over the hump. And you might lose a little bit of focus. You might lose a little bit of engagement. And so it's just such a big game if they could somehow win it. Because I feel like at this point, if you keep losing, it's like every loss just chips away at the amount of attention and the focus and everything that you've got going on with players. And I'm sure they're still engaged and accountable, the young players for sure. But think about if you're a guy this is your last year. You better really love the game. If you're getting paid right now, you better really love the game to stay engaged when you're 0-4 and you might not go to a bowl and you're like, what am I playing for? I'm getting paid anyway. And so I think the coaches have a big challenge on their hands right now to keep these guys focused and locked in to, hey, we can still do this. It's a big week. If they could somehow win, get something good to go for them. Man, it would be so big. What's funny is, I don't know if anybody has Netflix. The last couple of days I've watched the 2004, the documentary series on the 2004 Red Sox. where they were down 0-3 in the 2004 ALCS to the Yankees and came back and won 4 in a row. First team to ever be down 0-3 in a 7-game series and then win 4 straight. First in professional sports. And one of the things that stuck out to me, and it made me think about Auburn, was after they're down 0-3, they're in Boston, and Kevin Millar for the Red Sox is saying, don't let us get this one. Like, that's kind of where Auburn is. They just need a win. They need a win. They need good vibes. They need to feel like, okay, we are capable of doing this. We are capable of closing a game out. We're capable of buckling down and making the play when it matters most. They just need proof of concept, because right now they think they can. They need some proof of concept. And if they can somehow get it, then they come home and you're at home, and then maybe you could turn 1 into 2, and that's just kind of where they are right now, 1 game at a time. But I do think they're kind of at a point in the season where you're teetering. You're teetering in terms of players being engaged and things like that. That's why Hugh Freeze talked about coaching hard. He was asked this week about coaching hard and hey, how do you handle coaching hard? Certainly in this new age of college football, but even more so when you're 0-4 and players are already discouraged. Do you keep riding them and they might leave? And he was like, he obviously said he wasn't. He still wants to continue to coach hard, but the way he started the question was, he said it's very real. The concern about how players react to coaching and how engaged they are with everything else going on. He said it's a very real concern. And so I think your question about the players being engaged is a very real and legitimate question. I don't think we're calling anybody out. We're not saying anybody's quitting, but it's an absolute real question in this day and age when you get to this point in the season. You've already got portal and NIL and things that distract you sometimes. Toss in the fact that you're 0-4 in the league and you're really close to not going bowling. It's going to be tough to keep them focused. That's why they need something to go right. Kenneth, what you got? Will we see more of Perry, Cam, and Malcolm this game? Ready for these guys to get some 50-50 balls? Well, I mean, you'll see Cam and Malcolm. I think they have become important parts of the offense. Let's see what Malcolm's stat. Let's see what Malcolm his snaps have been recently. Because remember, it was a few weeks ago where Freeze said, hey, Malcolm needs to start playing more. And I was a little skeptical. I was like, okay, we'll see. We'll see if Malcolm actually starts getting specific plays. And he's got a few, but I don't know that his total snaps of. I'm curious. Let's see. Malcolm. They've teetered up. So Malcolm played 24 snaps against New Mexico, 15 against Arkansas, 7 against Oklahoma. That was, I think, after Oklahoma was the game where he had 7 snaps. One of them was the big touchdown. And I think it was after that game that Freeze said we got to get him involved more. And after that, he played 22 snaps at Georgia, 15 in Missouri. So his snaps have definitely gone up. Against Cal, he played 5. Against Arkansas, he played 15. And against Oklahoma, he played 7. So 2 of the 3 big games, he had played single-digit snaps. And then the last 2 games, he's played 22 and 15. So his snaps have definitely gone up. So I think that will probably continue to happen the more they get involved. Perry would be an interesting one. Perry, I think, is still – I don't know where he's at in terms of learning the offense. Freeze said the other day that he feels like Perry's had probably 2 really good weeks of practice. But that's all – practice, that all sounds great, but then when you get in the game, Freeze is going to be so – they're going to be so determined on their game plan and what the defense is doing, the situation, what they need to do. It's hard to get those guys in. I think it'll be about the same. I don't think you'll see Perry's snaps really go up until or unless Auburn's season completely, blows up. Like if they lose to Kentucky and lose to Vanderbilt and bowl season is officially off the table, then I think somebody like Perry, okay, now let's play him more, something like that. But right now, I think you still got something to play for. If he's still a little not sure about the offense, I'm not sure. They're still putting him out there to block some on the perimeter at times. They're still putting him out there some to just kind of run a fly route or something down the field, but he's not in there consistently. I think it's just a understanding of the offense type of thing. And this offense is tougher for a young receiver because it's not just learning the route. it's the communication to the quarterback and the RPO. It's just can Perry look out there and see the corner and the safety and diagnose where he needs to go? And the corner's off. I better adjust my route. Now I'm running a 5-yard stop. That stuff's not easy. And so I think it takes a little bit of time to learn that. Even Cam, look, Hugh Freeze said just this week, Cam is still running the wrong route sometimes. And that's your 5-star who's been here since the spring. And Perry got here in the summer. So I think it takes some time. So I don't know that we'll see necessarily a bunch more from Perry. Malcolm's a guy, like, I think you got to continue to try to get involved and not lose sight of him. Carlos says, what's the conversation around Freeze's job? I mean, that's a tough question. I mean, I think I don't see a situation where it's a complicated situation. I don't necessarily see a situation on the surface where Auburn just simply fires Hugh Freeze after 2 years. Let's just say worst case scenario, Auburn goes 2-10. As we've talked about on the shows, with every loss, the variables and the probability, all that changes. So we don't know what the feeling will be if they lose to Kentucky after. We don't know what the feeling will be after Vanderbilt. A lot of emotions involved. You got to remember, Auburn's paid $35 million in buyouts to Malzahn and Harsin. They would owe Freeze over $21 million. Not to mention, if they did that, they would make the program a toxic place. What head coach would want to step in if you fired Freeze after 2 years? I don't think they have a choice at all. I don't even think it's on the table. I think the only thing I would wonder is, we've heard Freeze talk a bunch about he doesn't like the portal. He doesn't like this new age of college football. He wants to just sort of be in this old school of building relationships with high school kids. He doesn't like all of this stuff around what college football is right now. Now, that's sort of too bad. It is what it is. That's too bad. I mean, he can't afford to not like it, but it doesn't mean he doesn't. I mean, but he still doesn't like it. So the only scenario that I could even conjure up would be if he's so disenchanted with what college football is, and Auburn goes 3-9. Is there some scenario where Freeze says, I'm disenchanted with it? And is there some scenario where Auburn says, listen, if you're so disenchanted with it, given that you just went 3-9 and you're disenchanted with it, maybe let's all just mutually part ways. And maybe there's a way you could do that so that it looks good. It doesn't look like you fired him. It looks like Hugh Freeze just retires. I'm literally just making this hypothetical situation up, but maybe there's a world where you could create it, you could handle it PR wise, and maybe Freeze just retires and you pay him a little bit, but not his whole buyout, and you could still attract a coach and all that good stuff. But assuming that's not the case, assuming Freeze is like, no, I'm going to adjust. We're good. I'm going to do this for 10 years. Then there's really nothing. I don't think there's anything on the table in terms of moving on with him. The recruiting's still going so well. And Auburn's competitive. Look, outside, even Georgia at times they're competitive, but you're talking about 3 one-possession losses, 2 double-digit fourth-quarter leads that you've lost in conference play. Now that sucks, and that shouldn't happen. But at the same time, as long as you're competitive, 3-9 would be a terrible season. But if they go to Kentucky and lose by field goal, and A&M's close, and even if Alabama, if they're competitive, there's going to be some kind of silver lining there. So anyway, all things being equal, I don't think anything happens. I just think it would be, the only thing happens is if Freeze feels like he's just over it all, and they go 3-9, do they all come together and potentially create some kind of scenario where they mutually part ways and try to everybody save face kind of thing. But that's completely hypothetical on my part. Taylor Lux, what have you heard in terms of buy-in from young guys on this roster that are expected to return next year and contribute? Are you expecting attrition from young guys due to lack of winning? Well, I mean, look, we talked to a bunch of young guys on Tuesday. We talked to Jay Crawford. We talked to Malik Blockton. We talked to Cam Coleman. We talked to Keldrick Falk. Those are all young guys. And then we talked to those guys. The young guys, I think, are still in a good place. The young guys are a lot like recruits now. They think they're going to be the difference. They think, hey, listen, once we get our stuff in, we can turn it around. And so those guys, I think, are fine. Now, you might have a couple of young guys that maybe thought they were going to come in and play more and aren't. That's a different scenario. That's more individual, and they wanted to play snaps and they aren't. But like in terms of just overall how they feel about the program, I think the young guys aren't really – I think they're okay in terms of mentally where they're at. I think obviously you got to bring them along. So young guys got to learn how to win. But I don't really see any issues with buy-in at the moment with young guys. Matter of fact, listen, I'll tell you, and I might post this on the board. I think the young guys are bought in. I heard a story after Missouri that there was a little bit of confrontation in the locker room after the game. Nothing crazy, just normal emotions, and players want to win. It's not a big deal. But that the young players were, had a voice, and there was a little bit of bickering, and I don't categorize it as a big deal. Like that stuff happens all the time. You guys went to practices, football, basketball, and saw some of the bickering and some of the things that happen, some of the heightened emotions and stuff. You'd be like, stuff happens all the time. That's competition. But I think some young guys voiced some opinions after that Missouri game that showed that they were very bought in. Like, hey, let's go. Let's keep let's not like they were pissed that they're losing, and they want to win. So no, I think the buy-in is still good. In terms of attrition, I'm sure. In this day and age, even if you win, lose, I don't even think it matters. You're going to have attrition no matter what. The goal is to create a culture inside where the players, one, you're winning, and two, the players believe they're going to get developed. If you can do that, and let's say you can retain 85 to 90% of your class every year, you'll be in good shape. Like if Auburn has 25 every year, and every year, you lose 5 from that class, I'd kind of deem that a success, honestly. There's obviously certain guys you want to keep that you have to keep. So it kind of depends on the 5. But I think you can absolutely expect attrition every year, no matter what. It's just going to happen. You're going to have some guys that aren't happy with playing time, or maybe they did play, but something didn't go right, or maybe they get tampered with. And a bigger program comes along and offers them a bag, and they're all about the bag and they take it. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it, but I think in this day and age, you're gonna have some attrition. And if you're an Auburn fan, look, just kind of go and prepare yourself. If you're going to recruit on the level that Auburn's recruiting, and you're going to attract that caliber of player, then absolutely the attrition will be different. So like Auburn had a lot of players transfer, Harsin and like Freeze's first year. But if you go back and look at a lot of those guys, they didn't go anywhere. Like there's pretty much nobody that left that went to a similar program and is excelling or doing anything. This would be different. If you keep recruiting talented players, they could probably go to some other talented programs and do stuff. So think about someone like Antonio Kite, who goes from Bama to Auburn, like talented player, didn't play as much. But if you keep recruiting at a high level, yeah, you're gonna have that many more players that other programs are gonna want. And I think that only heightens the opportunity for attrition and even makes it worse, because you're gonna have the play. If Auburn recruits like this, they're gonna have a caliber players that Georgia would want. They're gonna have a caliber player that Florida State wants. They're gonna have a caliber player that LSU's like, we'd love to have that guy. And so I think the better players you recruit, you're opening the door for even more programs to want that kid, versus maybe maybe a kid doesn't play and you push him out. But like for instance, Jay Crawford. I have zero reason to think he's going anywhere, but that kid's having a phenomenal freshman season. Probably dang near every program in the country would look at that guy and go, that's a promising freshman. Love to have him. Yeah, Keldrick Falk ending his sophomore year. Keldrick Falk could go anywhere he wants right now. He could go anywhere he wants right now. So anyway, the higher caliber player, I think you open the door to even more programs. They're going to want your players, and that's just part of it. What's up, Eric? Which freshmen will start getting playing time, see their playing time increase final games? Well, I mean, one we heard was DeAndre Carter. That's a guy that earned some first-team reps this week. Even going back to fall camp, he got some love from Freeze fall camp. Like, I'd have to go find the quote, but I feel like I remember Freeze saying something like, we hit on that guy. Like, that guy's going to be good. I feel like they had an idea then. He's got the size. He's a big guy. And so I think that's a good one to watch out for, especially with the offensive line struggles. Now, I don't know how your offensive line is going to play better necessarily if you toss a true freshman in there in November necessarily. But you did it with Connor Liu last year, and they were okay. So maybe there's a chance there. But I could see Carter being one. No, I think a lot of the freshmen that are capable of playing are playing. I mean, maybe Perry gets a few more snaps. I'd have to kind of go back and look at the class and see sort of who could pop in there. I think at this point, you got to think at this point you're 7 games in, so you've sort of decided who you want a red shirt. You're probably not pulling a red shirt off with this way the season's going. You're not pulling a red shirt off. So I kind of think the freshmen that are going to play are going to play. Carter might be one that they put out there, obviously, if they feel like it's worth burning a red shirt, if they feel like it's worth, hey, he could get really quality snaps the last 4 or 5 games, it's worth it. That's obviously discussions, though, that you have to have with the player and go, hey, are you okay with this? Are you okay with burning a red shirt? Or, you need to make sure you have those converts. But that's where I'd start. DeAndre Carter would be one. Who else could be one? Let's see last year's class real quick. And let's see if there's anybody that we haven't seen much of that would benefit Auburn to toss out there. Cam Coleman, Perry. I mean, Amaris is playing. Amaris is maybe a guy that could potentially see his snaps go up as the season goes on, as he gets used to the physicality, as he gets used to what's needed. Maybe a little bit more Amaris. Maybe a little bit more DeMarcus Riddick. He's already seen his snaps go up since Georgia. I could see those two guys being a little more comfortable in the defense and getting a little bit more playing time. I don't think we'll see Bryce Kane. No, I doubt it. DeAndre Carter, maybe somebody like TJ Lindsay. Defensive line has been okay, but they've lacked really impact players. TJ Lindsay is a guy that hasn't played a bunch. Maybe I don't know where he's at in his development. Maybe he's a guy that could really there could be real value in. Okay, let's burn the red shirt and let's give him some serious snaps the last 3 or 4 games. Maybe. A lot of these other guys, I don't know. So that'd be a few. Maybe to keep an eye on. What you got, Dean? Who steps up this weekend to seal the win? Yeah, maybe Hunter. I had a sneaky feeling that, McPherson in his first game back, I think he's going to get a chance. I think McPherson might kick a field goal. Maybe he can even get in there and make 2 from inside 30 yards. I could easily see McPherson in his sort of first game back, or being, because Freeze talked about if we get 35 and in, I think we're going to give him those shots. I could easily see him stepping right in and making a big kick on the road, and giving him some points. So I could see that. Hunter's going to have to be good. Peyton obviously is going to have to be good. I don't know. These teams are so interesting. There's just a lack of offensive firepower. There's defenses that are good at times, but not great. And so it's going to be close. But, yeah, I mean, if Auburn wins, I put a stat in there today. Under Hugh Freeze, Auburn is like, I have to look it up. I think they're undefeated when they have a 100-yard rusher under Hugh Freeze, which is like, you might be like, well, duh. Well, not necessarily. The way offenses go now, you could rush for 100. I mean, let's see. They're let's see, where is it at? They're 5-0. They're 5-0 when you have a 100-yard rusher. So if you could just get Jarquez going every time they've done it, they're 5-0. They're also 1-8 when they score less than 20 points. They're 7-4 when they get over 20 points. They're also 1-8 when they trail at halftime. They're 7-1 when leading at halftime, 1-8 when trailing at halftime. Like, so there's some stats that are just glaring, like scoring first, leading at halftime, 100-yard rusher. There's some that like literally they will win and lose by almost 100%. But yeah, Hunter be a good choice. I think Peyton too, on the road, cold environment. I think it's chilly anyway, not freezing, but chilly. Against a pretty good defense in Kentucky, Peyton's going to have to be good. He's got to be sound. And man, I think Peyton right now is everybody has their criticisms of Peyton, but I think he's more important now than ever. He's a team captain. He's a good leader. The players like him. With the season where it is right now, you need somebody like Peyton to really be a good. There's a few got Keldrick Falk. The guys that are captains and leaders need to be captains and leaders right now in a big way, and Peyton could be that guy. Peyton's that voice on offense, and a little extra spark from him could go a long way. Looks like we got Cole. See, I'll answer this question. We'll bring Cole in. Will another quarterback get a chance? Right now, I mean, given that, I mean, I say no. I mean, if Peyton's playing well, no. The answer is no. Like, there's just no reason to pull him. And the thing people forget, I understand Auburn's losing games, but I'm just telling you, and I've said it since Cal. I'm going to continue to say it until people realize Peyton has his limitations. Peyton can play better at times. Peyton is not the only reason Auburn's losing. Not even close. I'll tell you, the last 3 games, Missouri, Georgia, and Oklahoma, Peyton has graded out very well in those games. He just has. He is not the main reason they're losing. He's not even. I mean, if I had to list like the main reasons Auburn has lost some of these close games, especially like Georgia, Missouri, Oklahoma, maybe the last 3, he wouldn't even be on my first few. So unless Peyton just goes downhill again somewhere, he just tanks it. I don't know. I think he's your guy. We've kind of been through that. I think he's your guy. I think the only way we get into the Hank Brown discussion is if bowl eligibility is off the table. Then Hugh Freeze potentially could go, I'd like to get Hank some snaps. We're not going to a bowl. But again, that's a whole conversation we've had where then you're going to your team captain, Peyton Thorne, and saying you're playing decent. We have a lot of problems. You're not the only problem. You're playing okay. You're a team captain, but I'm going to pull you for a guy that really shouldn't be playing over you, but I would just want to see him in a game. That's a pretty crappy way to end a guy's career, in my opinion. So, Cole, what's up, man?
What's going on?
Where you at?
I'm just at the house tonight. Not going to a game tonight, so I'm actually going to cover. I put a thing up on the corner. You know, who do y'all want to see like a live game breakdown of? And I think the consensus is going to be the Baltimore crew. Blake Woodby, Bryce Diaz, and Wayne Henry, 3 Auburn commits. So we're going to get a look at them tonight and break them down in real time.
Nice. Did I see somewhere where Blake Woodby a 5-star by somebody?
Yeah, by ESPN.
Damn.
Yeah. He's fast.
I didn't know that. And that's a guy that camped, right? And they offered, like, that's one that good job by Auburn.
So right? that was Bryce Diaz, who was his teammate.
Okay.
Blake was formerly committed to Ohio State. He decommitted, and then he visited Auburn a couple times and committed at Big Cat.
Gotcha. Well, we've been talking about this Auburn-Kentucky game. We've chatted a little bit about, are there some freshmen that might see their snaps increase? Do you have any guys you might toss out? So I tossed out outside of the freshmen that are playing. Obviously, we hit on DeAndre Carter potentially.
Yeah,
I said Amaris Williams could maybe be a guy that gets a little more comfortable as the season goes on. Maybe his snaps go up a tad. DeMarcus Riddick, maybe. And then there was another one. Oh, TJ Lindsay, another guy that I thought, could he be a little bit more comfortable in what they're trying to do, used to the physicality. And if they think, hey, his reps would be valuable, let's put him out there more. But I really couldn't, outside of the freshmen that are already playing, I couldn't really find a freshman that really isn't playing now that all of a sudden it would be worth yanking a red shirt potentially to play at this point, outside of maybe a couple guys that have already played getting some additional snaps.
The only one that comes to mind, just because they're so thin, maybe a Monlane Gaines can help out in some regard. I'm sure he's coming along a lot better at this point. Of course, I'm sure he's probably helping out on the scout team, so you have that. I would. Are we counting Perry Thompson in that?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about him a little bit. We talked about the receivers. Would any of those receivers get more snaps? And I said, well, Cam's already out there. Malcolm's seen his snaps go up the last 2 games. My thoughts on Perry were, I mean, maybe, but you've got Keandre Lambert-Smith, you've got Robert Lewis, experienced guys. You got Cam, you got Malcolm. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where Perry's at in his development of understanding the offense and reading where the safety and the corner are. And, okay, now I better change my route in real time. It's a lot to learn, and I don't know where Perry's at and all that. So I don't necessarily see a dramatic bump in snaps for Perry at the moment, but maybe.
Yeah, I don't know either. The only thing is, like, you start trying to take a few more shot plays, and if that's the case, I think him in a one-on-one matchup might be something they could look to. It would be kind of, I don't know what would you call it. It would be kind of sneaky to put him out there and then take a one-on-one shot with him. It would be interesting. So I don't know. I'm looking at him. I'm looking at, like I said, DeAndre Carter. I always see him in that first, second team rotation whenever we go out there to practice, and he's been that way since fall camp. So yeah, he's been right on the cusp of playing for sure. DeAndre Carter. Man, I've always been a fan of him. I think I had him in my top 5 in my class ranking for last year. I just think he, just talking to him in person, he almost is like he's the nicest guy you'd ever meet. And then seeing him on film, he's like, oh, that doesn't match that personality at all.
Yeah.
I love those kind of guys. And he played well. I heard he'd had a really, really good week at the All-American Bowl in Texas too. So I think he's going to end up being a guard. I honestly think that Auburn's guard play has not been great. Jeremiah Wright's been the most consistent starter, but he's not great. He's maybe slightly above average, still inconsistent. So might be interesting if they throw him in there where Joyner's at, get him some work.
Yeah, and that might be the thing. Yeah.
Morris Williams' snap count's going up every week.
Yeah.
I would expect
DeAndre's played 21 snaps this season. All of them were against Alabama, A&M, and New Mexico. So, that would be a situation where a red shirt would be well, you got 4 games. So,
yeah.
But at this point, if you're tinkering with putting him out there now, I would imagine at that point you're sort of going towards pulling his red shirt. It's not like you're going to play him this week and then not play him next week and then play him the next week and somehow keep him under 4 games. Like if you're going to, at this point, it feels like if you feel like he deserves reps, I feel like he'll probably end up playing every game. It'd be weird to sort of pick and choose it just to save his red shirt, maybe. But if you think he can help, it's not helping the team if you
I think the red shirt. The red shirt it's not a thing of the past necessarily, but it's you don't try to save it as much as you once did because the portal. I mean, you can replace somebody with the portal. Anybody can leave at any time. Just if they're ready to play them. That's bottom line. And these guys think of that caliber, and I'm not saying Dre is like that, but they think they're going to get out of it in 3 years anyway, so you might as well play them. I don't see the point in not playing them or saving a red shirt anymore. It's kind of outdated to do that. I was going to say with TJ Lindsay, what's interesting I noticed about him is, they wear those green jerseys. The scout team does, Justin. And standing there with Christian Clemente, we were looking because we covered all these guys recruiting and, they all have different numbers on, so we're not sure who they are. We were trying to, who is that? Who is that, So 2 weeks ago, TJ Lindsay was wearing number 7, which Missouri's best D lineman is number 7, Chris McClellan. And this week he's wearing number 0. Kentucky's best D lineman is number 0, Deion Walker. So I'm betting that they're using TJ Lindsay when they go live against the scout team as the opposing team's best D lineman. All right. he's the guy we're looking at to give us the best look as the other team's D lineman in practice, is what I bet they're doing with that.
Yeah, and Lindsey's he's only played a few snaps against Alabama A&M. That's it. Amaris Williams played 17 snaps against Missouri. That's the most he's played since the opener by about 10 snaps. So Amaris, certainly that was the most action he's gotten in a big-time game against Missouri. I know you and I both picked Auburn in this game, almost identical scores, low scoring. Jeffrey was kind of right there, but picking Kentucky by a field goal. We all think it's low 20s, maybe somebody doesn't hit 20 in the game. One of the things that somebody asked earlier was about keeping the players engaged. And they said, somebody asked the question, basically like, what's the challenge now? Are players still bought in? Are they still engaged? And I think they're sort of on a teetering point. I think it's just human nature when you, especially now that you toss in portal and NIL, it's just human nature to start getting frustrated. You're 0-4. They need something good to happen to them so badly, just to have a proof of concept, just to feel like, okay, we actually can make a play in the fourth quarter. We can buckle down and mentally make the right play over the last 6, 7, 8 minutes of a ball game and win a game. But it does feel like they're at a teetering point of needing that positive thing to happen, or it could struggle. I sort of dropped a little bit of an anecdote about, I heard that after the Missouri game in the locker room, there's a little bit of bickering, nothing crazy, part of just the emotions, and people are competitive and not anything to be alarmed about, but frustrations. And that actually the young players were speaking up too. A little bit of bickering, but the young players are speaking up and saying, like, this isn't acceptable. This isn't acceptable. And so that's a good thing when you're thinking about the young guys. Is, in other words, it could be the other way. You could have young guys that don't understand the dynamic and are maybe like, yeah, I got 4 years to figure it out, no big deal. But that's actually not the case. I mean, I heard that there were some of the younger guys were more of them were passionate ones, like, this shit needs to get changed. But what's your take on maybe where they're at, players being bought in, and how important it is to try to get something positive going before you start to lose a guys? And that's just human nature to me.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I think the freshmen, not necessarily just freshmen, but the young guys, even like to your Keldrick Falk and Connor Liu, Kay and Lee class, I really don't think you have to worry about those guys. I think those guys are bought in. I'm just not worried about those guys as much. The ones I worry more about are your seniors, your guys that have been there for a minute. And I'm just, for example, a guy like maybe Eugene Asante, maybe a guy like Austin Keys, some of those older guys, Camden Brown. I'm just naming some. Those are just examples. I don't know anything about them, but I worry more for those guys because they know they're getting close to the end of their careers and they can feel it start slipping. And then it's like you get into a slump. And I know how that feels because I was on a team that was 2-8 my senior year. So I can relate to that. But the young guys, man, they just from talking to them, they think they are actually – they feel like they're the reason that Auburn's close in games. They feel like they were brought in and a depleted roster and brought it back up. Whether it's true or not, that's what they think, right? And they're helping Auburn stay close in these games when they feel like another class, that's the message from this staff. Like, we get one more class of our guys in here and we're going to get over the hump. So they have a different belief than maybe the older guys do. The older guys are going, gosh, it's slipping from us. Like, how do we stop this? How do we stop the slide? So I know how they feel. Like I said, I've been in their position. So I really worry less about the young guys. I think they'll be fine. I think another thing that helps this week is it being a night game. I really do think that helps a lot. I think they'll get up for that.
Yeah, it's going to be chilly. I need to look. It's not going to be freezing, but it's going to be cold. So, that'll be interesting because, it should be nothing, but you never know, man. When you get that first sort of cold game, and sometimes you can be a little tight, a little stiff. You got to get the juices flowing, especially when you're 0-4. You got to fight through that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game. I mean, I think it's crazy that Auburn's 0-4 and they have. I mean, to me, they're going to have every chance to win this game. I actually think offensively they're more capable than Kentucky. I think they've shown this year that they have more firepower at times than Kentucky. Kentucky's defense has probably put up a couple performances that Auburn has. I mean, you go to Ole Miss and hold them in check, and you hold Georgia in check, you're capable. But they're a little banged up on defense. Their leading rushers out. So, I mean, they're coming in on a 4-touchdown beat down at Florida. So both teams are going to come in searching for something good to happen early. Like they're both just trying to look for something to hold on to and grasp. And honestly, if either one of these teams wants to go to bowling, they basically have to win Saturday. Auburn, if they lose, has to win out. And we know it's at the end of the year at Alabama. I mean, that's just going to be awfully tough. Even A&M. You got A&M at home's awfully tough. I mean, all 4 of Auburn's games would be tough. So they'd have to win out. Kentucky, if they lose, would have Murray State and Louisville, and Louisville's good. And then they'd have to beat either one of Tennessee or Texas on the road to be bowl eligible. So for both of these teams, if they want to go bowling, I mean, they basically got to win Saturday. A loss Saturday for whoever loses Saturday, high likelihood that they're not going to a bowl.
Yeah, for the first time maybe this year, maybe the Arkansas game is when I felt as good about the matchups all across the board. I feel like I like the matchups for Auburn in this game. I will say, I don't think the 2 receivers for Kentucky are getting enough credit. Those guys are playmakers. Dane Key and Barry and Brown, those guys are serious playmakers. But they're not quite to the level of Theo Weiss and Luther Burden, who I thought Auburn contained for the most part. Those 2 guys. I mean, they didn't score. They had over 100 yards combined, but it was like 103 combined, I think, between Burden and Weiss. But they kept them bottled up pretty well, I thought. And 21 targets, by the way, combined to Weiss and Burden. I think they had 11 or 12 catches. So, you stop some things that they're trying to do with those 2 guys. I think Kentucky has a harder time getting it to these guys that Key and Brown. They can't get it to them as much as they want to or they need to. So that's one thing. And then they got their leading rusher out. And it's like, man, that's a big hit. That's a really big hit for them. I don't think their offensive line is all that strong. They're average, kind of like Auburn's is, kind of average. So pretty much every matchup is at least somewhat favorable for Auburn in this game that I can tell. Now, Auburn versus Auburn, that one scares me. That one bothers me a lot.
Yeah. I feel like this is just a complete 50-50 game. It's just going to be who can mentally get off the mat from last week, certainly, and for Auburn, multiple weeks, who can get off the mat and just stay engaged and fight through it. This is going to be a game where both teams are just going to be looking for something positive to happen. And to me, it's a game where it's like whoever holds on to hope the longest, like whoever just believes that they're going to get over the hump, whoever just is more desperate for that win probably is going to get it, because I don't know, nobody's a juggernaut here.
Right.
So obviously Kentucky being at home is big, and that worries me a little bit. Just where is Auburn's mindset? They just went to Missouri. They turn around. They're going back on the road. If it's a little chilly, a little cold, I just wonder. I picked Auburn by a field goal, but that'd be the only thing that concerns me is just staying engaged. They need it. They need to get off to a good start, and have a decent first quarter. Don't come out and feel like they're overwhelmed and stuff. Do you think Hugh Freeze will do anything differently when it comes to I don't know, calling plays? Like, it was crazy. We talked about it a little bit at the modcast. It was crazy to hear him say, I would have done it. I would have been aggressive 5 years ago, but I'm not now. And it's like, what are you waiting on? What are you waiting on? I think he is so the way he explained it was, I feel like these guys deserve a win so bad that for him, he was describing, I don't want to make a mistake that could cost them a win that I feel like they deserve. And I get that. I I get that. I do. But, I don't know. I think you just got to snap out of it a little bit. And I don't know. I think it's so much of it starts with him right now. He's got to snap out of that. And the team's got to take his lead, which is, I know that clip's been going around about from Freeze years ago at Ole Miss where he said, lock the gates and we'll see what happens, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a great clip. That's kind of where he needs to be. It can't hurt. He's got to do something to loosen everybody up. He's got to come out and go, listen, guys, just play your butt off and I'll be happy. He's just all the nitpicking. If Thorne throws a pick on the first possession, he should walk up to Peyton Thorne when he runs off the sideline and smack him on the helmet and be like, dude, we're good. We're fine, man. We're going back out. We're scoring the next time. Just be different for one game and stop with the pressure and stop with the anxiety and try to flip the script and let these guys feel like they can make mistakes. Imagine trying to play when your coach is openly saying, I feel like if I make a mistake, I could lose us the game. Now, how do you play loose and confident under those circumstances? And maybe that goes towards they're playing loose and confident at times, but when it matters, they don't. It's impossible. The whole culture's got to change a little bit on making a mistake is fine. Play through it. We're going to be fine. I feel like everybody is so tight right now. And to me, a lot of it is feeding from Hugh Freeze. I understand being demanding. You want to be demanding. You want to demand what you want. You're not dropping the standards, but there has to be a little bit of, hey, make mistakes are okay right now. And I feel like Hugh is so desperate for these wins that there's like not even room for mistakes anymore. And you cannot win that way. I don't know did we lose Cole?
Sorry, I'm back.
There you go.
Yeah, I had an issue there. Sorry.
No, you're good.
No, to your point, I think I'm glad that he addressed that he would have done something differently 5 years ago. I've been kind of waiting for that. Like, it's a question I wasn't sure how to formulate exactly. Like, why is it so much different now exactly? But the answer I wanted from him was, look, there's a reason why I'm doing it different now. 5 years ago, I had more confidence. But why is that exactly? Well, I don't know. I mean, when you're having to make the players hear that, or when the players know he's being that way, they have to think, was it because we're not good enough? Is it because he liked his other team better? Is that, you don't want them ever thinking that. You want them thinking, as the head coach, you're fired up to put them in these situations. You're like, you look at them and call a play and go, hey, this is about to work. I can't wait to see this play. Like at practice, that's going to be awesome. And maybe he is that way. It's just different in a game. I don't know. I want to believe that he's going to be different about that. I just don't know if I can say he will be. I think a little bit of trust could go a long way. You need to understand that I trust you to make this play, Robert Lewis or Peyton Thorne. You need to understand that there's got to be a way to do that, and I hope he does it. Again, something about it being at night really makes me feel a little bit differently about how focused they'll be. Because when you're on the road, you really do cut out all the distractions. You got to sit there all day and think about the game, and I don't know. It's a different dynamic. A lot of people don't think anything about the times, but I see the night game as being better for a team like this.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I think it should be it'll be an interesting game. By the way, if there's any more questions that come through Zach, you can push them to the front. Yeah, it's going to be interesting game. What you got, Dylan? Do y'all feel like we stay conservative if we take the lead, or expect us to be a little bit more aggressive?
By the way, I don't think
some combination.
I don't think Auburn sat on it last week. after going through the film. I really don't. I think they were the aggressor until the very last drive. That last drive bothered me. But the 2 or 3 drives before it, they really did go for the kill, especially with the Robert Lewis play. I mean, that's a shot play on 1st and goal from the 10, right? That's a go for the kill kind of play. And I felt like they did that. So I don't think.
Yeah. And I don't think I don't even think it's so much if we take the lead. Like, to me, both the Georgia and Missouri games from the beginning, I thought they were more conservative. I thought from the get-go, the game plans looked a little more conservative. I mean, I didn't see the kind of shots early. It looked like they were trying to ease into the game. I thought both of those game plans were a little bit conservative from the get-go, almost like Georgia. I get you're on the road. Georgia's one of the best teams in the country. You're trying to shorten that game. I get that one. Although we talked about it, like the way Auburn was trying to go about that offensively, best case scenario was you were going to keep it close, but I didn't see the way they were trying to handle that offensively. I was like, they're not going to win. You're just basically, it's too small of a margin to try to play that game. Missouri, I was a little bit confused on. It felt super conservative. Then they started to go downfield, the big shot downfield to Cam, things like that. But I don't know, man. Be aggressive from the get-go. I don't even think it's about getting a lead and then sitting on it. I think try to be – but it'd be nice if they could execute, like, early, by the way. I think the opponents – I think in all the FBS games, I'm pretty sure the opponent has gotten points on their first possession. I'd have to go back and look. Cal, Arkansas, the long run, Oklahoma, the long run. I think in all the FBS games, they've given up points right off the bat. So defensively, it'd be nice to get off to a good start and maybe like shut somebody out in the first quarter. That would help, so that every single game you're not within the first 6-7 minutes you're trailing.
Right.
That'd be nice. Colby, what do you think is the reason for these fourth quarter collapses? Tiredness, lack of depth, maybe. No, I don't think it's. I mean, I don't think it's either. I know Hugh Freeze talked about the defense being tired at the end of that Missouri game. I could understand at the end of the drive. Certainly, you're on the field. 17 plays is a long time. At the same time, Missouri only ran. Let's see if I've still got the stats. Missouri only ran. Well, they ended up running 75 plays in the game. But I mean, by the time that drive started, the defense had only been on the field 50-something snaps.
Well, I think it's more demoralizing than anything because they had a 3-and-out right before that, gave the offense back the ball on Missouri's 39-yard line going in, and they pissed it away. And then you're right back where you were if you're the defense, and you're like, man, I mean, we just got off the field. Like, it's more of a demoralizing thing at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. When you and on that drive alone, I think Missouri had 3 third-down conversions and then a fourth-down conversion on that drive. So I don't think it was tired. I think it was can't get them off the field. Had another chance, still didn't get them off the field. And when that happens so many times, I would love if somebody did a stat. I'm sure there's something out there. I would love to know stats on if a team converts 1 third down on a drive, what does the percentage do that they score? If they convert 2 third downs on a drive, what does the percentage do? Obviously, it goes up because you still have the ball. But, man, I bet rarely do you see a team convert a third down and then punt, or especially convert like 2 third downs on a drive and punt. Obviously, it means they're moving the ball, but I feel like third down conversions they're everything. Like, literally, if you can get that first third down conversion, I bet you just that first one, I bet you the probability of you scoring on that drive go up exponentially the second you do it versus like when you started the drive. I don't know. And a lot of that, I think, goes to the defense as well. They give it up, and there's a mental part of, crap, we should be off the field right now. Okay, regroup. So I don't know about the lack. It's just execution, man. And look, part of it's close games. Part of it's wild, like the Oklahoma game. Gosh, I mean, that was a pretty wild set of circumstances. I mean, that linebacker to make that play, to drop right back into the room for Peyton, that's a wild set. That's not tired. it's not even execution. I mean, it sort of is, but that is, to me, was just a phenomenal call and play by Oklahoma. And it just, obviously a mistake by Peyton to some degree, but he also kind of read the play right. I mean, there's only so much you can do. I don't know. I give a lot of credit to Oklahoma. So some of that I don't, but Missouri was just losing momentum and lack of execution late.
What was that, 3rd and 4 on that down and distance?
Yeah.
You compare that to what Auburn did on those down and distances in the Missouri game, and that play looks really dumb because, they lined up and gotten wildcat and just pounded the ball at Missouri's defense, which is not, pretty tough in the middle for the most part. And they converted a lot of those downs. I mean, they actually, crazy enough, they did actually fix some of the short situational moments last week. They actually fixed some of those. They did much better in those situations.
Yeah, and I'll say we'll see. I think one of the issues that could be happening on these critical downs too is it's so important. And I'm not at every practice. I mean, I hear things, but I'm not in every meeting. But I'm just going to say a blanket statement. It's important that the plays you're calling in the game on critical downs are ones that you have thoroughly practiced and prepared for during the week. I understand there's circumstances that could pop up where you go, oh my gosh, I know we didn't practice this, but oh man, this is the perfect play. I could get it, but also, like, if that's a play that you haven't even repped in a month, that's risky. Like, I get you may want to call it, but if you haven't repped it in a month, you're upping the chance of a miscommunication. You're upping the chance of an execution problem. So I just think it's important to, I think Freeze maybe sometimes can get his mind racing. And I just think it's important that they stick to the script to try to call plays in those critical downs that they've practiced and repped and given the best chance to execute it. Marshall says, does Auburn make any changes in the coaching staff after the season?
Marshall,
I would say too early to tell. I don't have any.
Listen,
I mean, I don't have maybe. I don't have like a certain guy that I've already heard like, oh,
don't take
it
from us. Don't take it from us. Take it from the law of averages. The law of averages says, yes, there will be coaching changes at the end of the season.
Yeah. That could be for a lot of reasons. That could be a guy moving.
Yeah.
Like Derek Nix's name's getting tossed around Southern Miss, or, maybe you feel like you need a recruiting bump at a position. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, look, Freeze, he felt good about this staff. He said preseason he feels so comfortable with the staff. A lot of these guys, pretty much everybody he's worked with at Liberty or Ole Miss or even just last year at Auburn, like everybody there he's got experience with. So, but I don't know what I guess. Probably, yeah. I don't know that there's necessarily one I would specifically pinpoint at the moment of Auburn needing to make a change. Although I've personally, offensive line, maybe I don't particularly love what I've seen the last 2 years, but they know more than I do. But I'm sure, yeah. Swinging Aubie, is Hughes RPO too complicated for Thorne? Oh gosh, no. I mean, no, it's not. It's just I just think there's a lot of complexities to it, and we've talked about this where I know Hugh likes to say it's easy, or maybe somebody else online said it was easy. I just think there's complexities to it that open the door. I just think there's a lot of areas where the doors open for mistakes in the RPO system. I think, like, on one hand, it sounds easy, but I do think there's a lot of room for mistakes, but there's a lot of room for big plays. Like, it goes both ways, but no, it's not too complicated. Like, Peyton's a smart person, and Peyton's been around football. It's not too complicated for him. I think all the pieces have to be together. Everything has got to be together, or it can look bad.
Let me say this, Justin, then I got to jump off. But
yeah,
so I think Peyton is a by the book kind of guy. Typically, coaches' kids are that way, especially when they play quarterback. That means he's going to do exactly what they practice. That means he's going to do exactly what he's told to do. The read that's supposed to be there, he's going to make it. He's not really going to improvise much from that. And when defenses know you're going to be running RPOs a lot, they'll start trying to dictate it by putting people in the box or taking people out of the box. and then what looks like a bad read is actually the right read based on the play, but maybe didn't fit the down and distance, right? I mean, I've seen that so many times this season. That's why I've said, look, if you're Hugh Freeze, you're allowing this to happen. You need to step in and say, look, this is a down and distance I want control of. It's nothing against you, Peyton. Just do this. I don't care what the read says, or maybe we don't read it. Let's just do this, right? And he'll do it. You're not going to convince me that Peyton Thorne has ever been told to do something and said, screw you. I'm doing it this way.
Yeah.
That's never once happened. Not this year, not ever. It's not going to happen. He does it the way he's taught and coached. And sometimes in certain situations, it looks bad because he did it the way he was told, but hey, it wasn't the right situation for that. Well, that's on the play caller to me. If you really look into it and you know the intricacies of RPO offense, you have to understand it now. That's the number one rule here. You got to really understand what they're trying to do. And if you don't, it can look really bad to the naked eye.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. So I don't think it's too complicated. It's just, everybody being on the same page.
Well, it's why that Justin. It's why that that he comes back to the sideline and Hugh Freeze looks like, his eyes are about to pop out of his head, and Peyton's almost like, well, that's what we were supposed to do. That's what we did in practice. That's how isn't that what we did? And then he's like, no, this down and distance. Well, we didn't talk about that. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just I think it's very much an offense where everybody's got to be on the same page, and if somebody's not, if something's off, then I think it leads to a lot of what we've seen: an execution thing, a miscommunication thing, a this, or that. And if it's not one thing, it's another thing.
That went away last week. We didn't have that problem last week. I didn't see it.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it. Didn't hear a lot about it necessarily. Like people not being on the same page.
There was one time when it might have gone that way, and they called a timeout, and you're like, "Oh, why'd you take a timeout here?" And then you realize, "Oh, this was about to be an issue. That's okay. Let's take the timeout."
Yeah, we didn't talk about it. We'll end on that, but yeah, we didn't talk about that a lot. But the possession where they burned 2 timeouts kind of sucked. Could have used those later on. That might have been the possession you're talking about. There was a miscommunication timeout. Yeah. Then there was one later, and you could literally Freeze be like, "We just used 2 timeouts." You could see them talking on the sideline. They weren't thrilled.
No.
All right. Well, let's roll with that. Sorry we didn't get to basketball. Let's talk basketball next Friday as well. Let's get some football and basketball. Auburn has the exhibition on Sunday. But we'll end on that. Catch the replay. The replay will be there. We're here at Session Cocktail downtown Auburn. Happy hours going on. So come check them out. And again, don't have to make a reservation. Just pop in. Just come. Rarely do you have to wait. I'd say maybe home weekend on a Friday at like 9:30 or 9 maybe. But other than that, you're probably going to get a spot somewhere. So come pop in, check them out. Cole's hanging out at the house. I'm going to go home and eat some dinner. We'll see everybody on the corner for Auburn and Kentucky. We'll talk to you guys later.